Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been on my channel long enough, you'll know that I love tarot decks with images of Baroque, classical, and Pre-Raphaelite art. I know I'm not alone in this. There is just something extra magical to me about the combination of beautiful classical art and the tarot. Much of this art depicts scenes from mythology, the Bible, and glimpses of the triumphs and struggles of the past, all brought to life by art masters and visionaries. Today, I want to introduce you to a wonderful new option if you are drawn to this genre of deck. It's called the Allegorical Reverie Tarot, and it's available now on makeplayingcards.com. Let's turn over these glorious backs and see what treasure lies on the other side. So I hope you enjoyed that musical flip through of the Allegorical Reverie Tarot by Adina Andries. Now, a little background on this deck. I was reached out to through email by the creator and asked if I would like to feature this deck because Adina felt that this deck was definitely in my wheelhouse, had my aesthetic, and she was absolutely, positively 100% right. And you'll also notice that in the musical flip through, it does have, you know, symbolist, pre-Raphaelite, neoclassical art, even some Renaissance and Baroque artwork. So some of the depictions and some of the pieces in the deck we have seen in other classical decks, certainly some that I have. But it was also nice to see so many new representations and interpretations of the cards themselves. Now, if you noticed in the musical flip through, well, first of all, this card deck is 90 cards. And by the way, it is linen cardstock, which is another plus. So again, totally in my wheelhouse. But you'll notice for some of the majors, there are choices. So we'll just go through the majors again. So you have a choice for the Fool, depending which one you favor. You could choose to have the Sorcerer or the Sorceress. And again, we've seen this depiction, so I'm thinking I may use this one. And then we have two choices for the High Priestess, and they are both stunning. But there is something haunting about this one that just kind of, you know, gives me the tingles. So I probably will use that one. We have two depictions of the Empress. So for those of you who don't really like your Empress depicted as, you know, a mother, there's another option, because we know, you know, the Empress encompasses a lot of things, not just a childbearing, fertile woman. But I do think there is something so beautiful about this card. I think it's the color palette that grabs me. Only one emperor, but we do have two choices for the Hierophant, and there is different titles. So you get the Hierophant for this, and this is a depiction of Jesus. So if you don't like that, you could also use the Teacher, and I think I'm going to be inclined to using this one. We have two choices for the Lovers, and I like both of these, so I can't really decide. I don't have to decide right here and now. We have our Chariot, and this might be a deal breaker for some of you because there are in this deck quite a bit of cards. You know, if you're using this deck, you're going to have to do a lot of this. So there's portrait cards, and then we have some that are, I guess this is landscape. Did I get that mixed up? But yes, you're going to have to turn your cards sideways in quite a few. There's not just one or two, there's several. So it's not a deal breaker for me, but it may be for some of you. But see, I think it's worth it. Don't you think it's worth it for this depiction of strength? It is so beautiful. Let's see, we have to turn the deck around. So we've got our Hermit, and I think, okay, we have the Wheel for the Wheel of Fortune, and I think the Fates is meant to be a substitute that you can use for the Wheel of Fortune. Let me know if you think that's correct. I think you can do that. It's what I would do, and I kind of do like the thought of using the Fates for the Wheel in lieu of the Wheel. We have just one Justice card, and again we have the Drowned, okay, in lieu of the Hangman, I believe. And I think we are offered the option of time. I think in lieu of the drowned, there's no traditional hanged man card. Now, in her email, Adina did say that she had her own thoughts about the tarot, and she didn't go into them in detail. So I'm assuming that you could use time for the drowned or hangman. Let me know what you think. We just have one death card. And instead of temperance, we have alchemy. We have two choices for the devil card. Now, I will probably use this one because I think it's really cool. So enticing. But this one looks more like a Four of Cups pose for me, but he does have the symbolic chains here. So I think it would be, you know, depending which depiction you like. We have only one tower, but we do have two choices for the star. And you see the stars are a little bit more prevalent here, and you do have one star, you know, digitally added here. So I like them both. I'm not quite sure which one I'll choose, but again, I don't have to decide right now. I love this moon card. We do have two choices for the moon, but I am definitely going to be using this one. When I saw it, it just gave me the tingles, because here is a woman celebrating the full moon, and it looks like she's celebrating it. She's giving thanks for it, and she's about ready to go into her ritual. I think it's glorious. I think it's so beautiful, but I think this one is beautiful as well. Let me know in the comments below which one's your favorite. We also have two choices for the sun. And I'm not really sure which one I'd use. Not sure. I could see going back and forth with this one. This one is a little bit more reminiscent of the naked baby, I think, capturing the essence of the traditional RWS. But we've got a naked youth as opposed to a baby, so I don't know. I could go either way with that. We have one judgment card and one world card, and then we go into the suits. Now, instead of the traditional name of the suits, she uses the elements, so fire, water, air, and earth. And if there's one little nitpicky thing, I'll have to say, some of the cards, the font is very, very faint, and it's hard to see, not just on camera, but in person, that this is the Ace of Fire. I mean, you really, really have to see it. I mean, you have the essence and the energy of being the Ace of Fire, but you don't see it right here. So if you're not familiar with tarot, if you're a beginner, this would really be hard to glean, because it gets lost in, you know, the glow right here in the artwork. There's a couple of them like that. And even though the font is very, very faint and delicate, I can, you know, easily see them. But that one, the Ace of Fire, is particularly hard, and that's just a minor quibble. I am really, really enjoying some of this creator's interpretations of the cards. Now, this is I would say follows the RWS system fairly closely, but I love, 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 love this depiction of the Three of Wands, or the Three of Fire. And you've got a little bit of girl power here. They're all three females. So here again, you see that you're gonna have to flip your deck right here for the Four of Fire. And I love this depiction of the Four of Fire, or the Four of Wands. Now, having this be classical art depictions, you know, there's not a lot of diversity, but you pretty much know that and accept that going in when you're going to purchase a classical art deck. And that's something I totally accept and I totally know. Yeah, you're just not going to get a lot of diversity. You're not going to get a lot of diversity in body types, race, and age. I love this Knight of Fire. I mean, the creator really picked some unique choices for some of these cards. And again, artwork that we haven't seen before in these classical art decks. There are some in here that, yes, I do have in some of my other decks. I think, let me know, you historians, is this Ivan the Terrible? I think this might be a depiction of Ivan the Terrible. I know this is Russian or, you know, kind of Eastern European guard, but I think that's supposed to be Ivan the Terrible. Let me know in the description box below if you know for sure. I love the suit of water in this, or the suit of cups in this deck. I think it's beautiful and stunning and so romantic. Oh, this Three of Water, I just love it. This Pisces girl totally digs this suit of water in this deck. And yes, we've seen, I think this is one of John Everett Millet's famous paintings, but we have it, you know, I've seen it portrait-wise before, and it's in landscape here. So again, a deal breaker for some of you, but not for me. I think the suit of water may be my favorite, but I am biased. I am a Pisces girl and I have a lot of water in my chart. So, oh, see again, you've got two in a row. So I like this depiction of the Eight of Water. Instead of just one person moving away, it looks like a whole village or a family is moving away, and you don't really know their circumstances and why they have to move away from the home that they loved. I really, really like this. I believe this is John Waterhouse's Ophelia as opposed to the other famous Ophelia by Millet. This is Ophelia before she goes into the water. I'm really, really happy with some of the choices, and it's good to see some new artwork. A very, very melancholy Queen of Water, but so beautiful, and I'm in love with this color palette right here. I do like this King of Water as well. I think the suit of water is my favorite. And then we go into the air again. Let me know if this would bother you for this deck, because I do know that the creator wants some input. So anything that you leave in the comments will help her. Let me know in the comments below if, you know, having to turn the cards, if that would turn you off from the deck, even though you may have purchased it otherwise because you love the artwork and you love the vibe of this deck. Now again, here with the faint and delicate font here, this one, the Two of Air, not as hard to see as the Ace of Fire, but still a little bit difficult because of the light colored background. This delicate font is a lot easier to see with the darker colors in the background, the more earthy colors. Now, the creator did mention, and you probably have noticed, there's no guidebook that comes with this deck right now. She said she didn't have the time to write a guidebook and she wanted to get her deck out. Maybe in the future she will when she has more time, because I would really, for these decks that are based on classical well-known art, I would like to see a little bit of background, the name of the painting, a little bit of background, who the artist is, and precisely why the creator, the curator of the deck chose these particular images. Some of them are obvious and some of them are not. And as the Adina expressed to me in her email, that she has her own ideas about the tarot, and you can kind of glean some of them from you know, the choices that she chose, but I would like a little more detail. And here's a classic depiction of Joan of Arc, well-known painting. So I would love to know, not only for myself, but really if the creator sees this video, which I'm sure she will, your input also on this deck and the choices she's made and anything about the production value. Now, this is linen cardstock, which is so fabulous, and which is what I really prefer overall for any deck, but particularly for art decks, because I think you get the texture of the canvas of the original artwork. I just think linen cardstock brings these depictions and the images to life more. And it's just like seeing, you know, the original painting. Though you know that these are cut out from larger paintings. I love this Ace of Earth. And actually, I think the suit of Earth or suit of Pentacles in a traditional tarot RWS deck, I think it's my second favorite. And I always love these depictions with the model Jane Morris, who later became William Morris's wife, and right now her maiden name is escaping me, but she shows up in so many of the Pre-Raphaelite photos. Her and Elizabeth Siddell, who was Rossetti's muse. So beautiful. And let me know in the comments below if you love classical art decks or if you've pretty much stayed away from them. I will say that I wouldn't recommend this deck for a beginner right off the bat until you have a very good foundation with, you know, standard RWS, but you know, do as you will. You can use these decks to read intuitively, certainly, but for me, I know that I wouldn't have been able to read with these sort of decks until I had a good foundation of the RWS. And if you're a beginner, if you just enjoy the images, you could just get the deck to enjoy for the images until you do have a good foundation with the RWS system. I do think having a guidebook, even though it does pretty closely follow the traditional RWS, would be so helpful, because, you know, you do want to know who the artist is, and because so many of these classical paintings are depicting, you know, stories from mythology and also Christian lore, stories from the Bible. It would be nice to have that even in a very simple little white book. But an added bonus would be also, you know, the creator's reasoning for picking certain images. Just for shits and giggles, you're gonna see that this deck just shuffles like a dream. It's on make playing cards, linen cardstock. So, and it's standard tarot size, so if you have little hands like me, you will have no trouble. And if you're a riffle shuffler and bridger, you know, no problems whatsoever. A little bit slippy, but that's okay. Very, very functional, practical, and usable. And you could put a deck like this through a lot. So in lieu of a box of any kind, the deck will come in this really pretty little standard black velvet or velveteen bag, which is good because I know many of you like to keep your decks in bags instead of tuck boxes. So for those of you who may be concerned about the delicate font with the Allegorical Reverie Tarot, I think it's really, really pretty. And except for a couple of cards that it's, difficult to see, I do like it. Now, you can see I have some other examples of classical art decks and what they did with their font. And this here is the Enchanted Romance. And you can see, because this card has the border, they were able just to put the name of the card right here with the number. I prefer my classical art decks not to really have a colored border. So I would say this would probably be my least favorite. I don't know. Here we have the Revival Art Tarot, the first edition. And you can see they do have a little banner, but it's very, very light, and also using a light and delicate font. But because you have this scrolling here, it highlights the title, not boldly, but you can see it very well. And here we have the beautiful Rebellion, and what the creator did here was put like a color swatch and then the name of the card, and also a delicate font. So, we're all different. We all have our preferences. So it just kind of depends on what you prefer. I'm okay with all of these, probably with this being my least favorite, just because it has a border around it, and I would prefer my classical art decks not to have a border. You see what they did with the Revival Art? They just have this delicate scrolling, which is great because it fits the aesthetic of the deck, kind of being old world, whereas, the border around this is just very modern, if that makes sense. So this is just to illustrate different ways that other creators have done, the naming of the cards and the different fonts they used. I really like this for the Allegorical Reverie. It's delicate, it's pretty, and with the exception of just a couple of cards, being hard to see, I think it's suitable for me. Let me know what you think in the description box below. So to recap, I think this is a stunning deck. I think it is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful that Adina, the creator, asked me to feature this on my channel. As a very small channel, it's nice to know that some people are watching me, and she knew that this deck was going to be something that that's in my wheelhouse and that I would enjoy. So I'm glad somebody's watching my channel. Like I said, I don't get a lot of offers to feature decks, especially not from the big mass market creators of decks. I don't have people offering me decks for review right and left. So I will always tell you when it happens, and I'm always very, very thankful when it happens, especially me being a small channel. So thank you, Adina Andries. I think you created a beautiful, beautiful, stunning deck that I will treasure and I will use. But for the rest of you, now, this is my aesthetic. I love this type of deck and art decks, and I have several of them. But I want to know your opinions. Now, I've mentioned just a couple of nitpicky things about the delicate font being lost in some of the color. In especially not too many cards, it's hard to read, but there are maybe 2, 3, 4 at the most where it's kind of hard to read with the very delicate font, especially against a light background. That's a minor quibble. But something that may turn some of you off, but it doesn't turn me off, is that quite a few cards are in landscape mode. So you will have to, kind of, if you're depending on how you read and how you like to lay out your cards, your spread, that may be a deterrent. So I would really like to know that in the comments below. What do you think? Would that be a deterrent for you in keeping you from purchasing a deck like this if this is in your wheelhouse and you like everything else? I think the backs are beautiful. The fact that it's on linen cardstock is just a plus. I really like that you get so many choices in the major arcana for switching out cards. There are 90 cards in this deck, so that is a plus. Another minor quibble is there is absolutely no guidebook at this time. And I really wish there were, because I really want to know what's in the mind of Adina. In picking out her images, there are some of the artwork that I'm not familiar with. So I would like to know who the artist is and what it's depicting, you know, if it's depicting a myth, depicting some Christian lore, Bible stories. Yeah, I would like to know it. And also if it's depicting a historical figure. Like I picked out that one that I thought was Ivan the Terrible. Yeah, for a deck like this, and I would say this for all classical art decks, you really need to have a guidebook. But even without one, if you have a good sense of the RWS system, you could totally read with this deck. All right, I think that is all. If I missed anything about this deck, ask away in the comment section below. It's a hit for me. I am, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed and I'm so happy to have this deck in my hands. But I want to know what you think. And just a reminder, if you found this walkthrough helpful, did I put this on the map for you or on your wish list? Please consider hitting a like, a subscribe, hitting that notification bell, leaving a comment below, all of which helps this very small channel to grow and to push out my videos to other people who may not have found me yet. All right, with that, I will let you get on with your beautiful day. Bye for now.